Hi, so it's time to talk about everyone's favorite subject, or probably the video that I'll make that will get the most views or most attention, and that is on my top 3 recommendations for weight loss. Let's get right into it. Number 1 is actually going to be completely contrary to what the vast majority of people, dietitians, etc., and the unfortunate rhetoric for the past 60 years in this country or so, which is going to be eat more fat. That's right, I said eat more fat. So long as that is from a healthy source such as avocado, coconut, I would say organic butter would be included in there as well, olive oil, which is not great for high heat cooking, but in general in recipes, great fat to include. Obviously, extra virgin olive oil is going to be the ideal or preferred form. There's only 2 ways to make food taste good. You can either add fat or you can add a lot of sugar. And I'll tell you right now, one of these is much, much healthier than the other. Can you take a guess which one? Where the idea came from that fats were bad in the first place came from some studies that were done in the 50s where individuals who had pathologic states, so they really were not healthy individuals, were given IV nutrients including saturated fats, which then led to atherosclerosis. If you understand the pathophysiology behind atherosclerosis, you will know that it takes oxidation or damage to occur in order for atherosclerotic plaque to build up to begin with. So infusing that into a pathologic individual or someone who's sick, it would make sense that that person wouldn't be able to prevent the oxidation of those fats. And you couple that with studies up until the late 1980s did not distinguish between trans fats and saturated fats. They were grouped together. So studies up until that point were showing that yes, saturated fat caused problems because trans fats do cause problems. Thank God they've finally been outlawed and are really kind of disappearing from the United States and kind of use in general. You can still find them here and there, but generally speaking, those are thankfully on the decline. When you account for all of these explanations as to why in the past fats were demonized, especially when you consider that toxins are stored in fats, and unhealthy animals who are living shoulder to shoulder and they're being fed antibiotics and all this other junk, living in a farm somewhere, I would suspect that the saturated fat or the steak of a cow that was living in those conditions, in other words, non-organic, non-grass-fed, would have a high toxin count in their saturated fat. I think when you account for all things, it becomes obvious that there are healthy fats out there, and healthy fats will keep you full for longer. They will make food taste good, they will make food enjoyable, and they will make dieting enjoyable. However, fats are high calorie, which leads me to my next point. Point number 2, recommendation number 2. Do not overeat. This is so important. There was once a professor that went out to prove that even eating candy bars, you can lose weight, which is to say that calories are calories, and that too many will cause you to gain weight, and too little will cause you to lose weight. However, eating too few calories for any extended period of time will slow down your metabolism, even to the point where if you, say, cut your calorie intake down to 1,000 calories a day, which almost anyone would lose weight eating that few of calories, over time, even staying at that 1,000 calorie level, people will put weight back on because their metabolism will slow down to the point where it's even below that super low calorie threshold that they have kept themselves at. And then they just feel tired all the time because they're not eating enough, and they're putting on weight anyway. So the way to avoid this is don't overeat. And how do you know when you're full? That's another question. The best way that I'm familiar with is to pay attention for just about everyone, at least to my knowledge, will sigh actually when you're full. So you'll do kind of a, you finish swallowing one bite and you'll go, pay attention for that. That means that you're full. And if you really want to focus on weight loss, you stop eating right then, right there. However much food is left on the plate, it's for leftovers. Do not keep eating at that point until you get hungry again. My third and final point is to do high-intensity interval training. High-intensity interval training is probably the single most important thing that you can do to boost your metabolism, which ideally, if you boost your metabolism enough, you can get to the point where if you have ice cream once a week, it doesn't even matter because your metabolism is so high that, like someone who's skinny and has trouble putting on weight, all those people that you might be jealous of, you can be that person if you are able to boost your metabolism high enough. High-intensity interval training may in fact be the only way to do that. I don't think anyone quite knows the answer to that, and I certainly wouldn't expect that would be possible for everyone. But nevertheless, if you're trying to lose weight, you want your metabolism as fast and as high as you can get it, and the only way to get your metabolism as fast as high as you can get it is by doing high-intensity interval training. What is high-intensity interval training, though? So high-intensity interval training is exercising anywhere from 15 to 30 seconds at such a rate that when you take that break from that 15 to 30 second interval and you are resting for anywhere from a minute to 2 minutes, depending on how good of shape that you are in. If you're just starting out, you're going to need probably at least 2 minutes rest. But once you end that interval, you are huffing and puffing. You have seriously exerted yourself, getting your maximum heart rate up in the 90+% range, at least for a short period of time. Contrary to what many healthcare practitioners have thought for many years now, is that high-intensity interval training is unsafe. There is a multitude of studies these days that show otherwise, actually, that high-intensity interval training is at least as safe as the current recommendation of moderate intensity interval training. It may be even safer, and in addition to that, high-intensity interval training actually leads to better outcomes in the actual adverse event that someone has a clot somewhere that goes into the heart and clogs the heart artery, or I would expect the same with a pulmonary embolism, but I don't know that there is evidence out there for that. Although I wouldn't expect that to improve outcome in a stroke, if a stroke were to occur from a clot forming. And so when you couple everything for high-intensity interval training, it just becomes more and more obvious. Although I will say, high-intensity interval training, if you've never done an exercise program in your life, or if it's been 3 months or longer since you've done any kind of consistent or significant exercise, not a good idea to start right on high-intensity interval training right away. You're going to be better off and less likely to get injured if you start off doing low to moderate intensity intensity exercise and build up from there. Seeing a personal trainer is a good way to progressively increase up to a point where you can do high-intensity interval training. They also should be able to show you more specifically what high-intensity interval training should look like. But I also will say that just because someone is a certified personal trainer doesn't necessarily mean that they especially know what they're doing or they know what they're talking about. So you definitely want to see someone who is either well-reviewed by others or has a bachelor's degree in a related field, or someone who has years of experience under their belt and is well reviewed by other individuals. Just because somebody has a personal trainer certification doesn't mean that they are necessarily an expert in exercise. And so those are my top three recommendations for weight loss. There are a million under the sun, a bunch more that I would recommend to a client that I would have if I was seeing them for weight loss. But nevertheless, those are my top three, and I think that they can be very powerful in aiding you in a weight loss journey. So I wish you the best of luck.